Hello everyone. Here's my dad and I sitting in the barn alleyway cutting the side panels for the cabinet. This cabinet is 36 inches by 42 inches. The pink side panels in the image in the top left corner is what we'll be cutting out. These are the two largest pieces to the project. Once we're done cutting the side panels, we move into the garage or the shop to cut the support braces, which are the red panels in the SketchUp diagram. As you noticed in the first part of the video, we were cutting the first section of the plywood. Since this is a 4x8 sheet of plywood, it's difficult to get accurate measurements on a table saw. So we use a track saw to cut it down to approximate measurements, and then we bring it inside the shop to get the appropriate widths and lengths. See me hit that move? Watch out now. So here we're going to be cutting out a toe kick. There's multiple ways to install a toe kick on a cabinet. You can either cut it out like we're about to do, which is a 4x3 square in the bottom left, or you can build a base, which is about 3 inches to 4 inches shorter than your cabinet width, and your cabinet will sit on top of that. Pretty much this is just a space where your toes go while you're washing dishes or using the sink or standing in front of that cabinet. I'm just using a bandsaw to cut this out. I could have used a jigsaw, but it was being utilized by my mom, so we used a big giant bandsaw for this itty bitty 4x4 square. This is where I'm going to start a little bit of controversy. I think it's a perfect time, as you guys just watch me maneuver through the shop and build a random crap. I want to talk about the price so far at where we are in this project. As I said in the beginning in my first video, that I'm going to be transparent about everything regarding price of a project. This basement cabinet, which is a 42-inch wide, 36-inch high, and 22.5 inch, well, it's 24 inches deep. This cabinet will, as of right now, cost approximately $342. For a lot of people, that sounds like a lot of money. But let's break down this cost. We have the plywood, which costs $46.96 per sheet. We used one sheet of plywood. We have 1x3s, which cost $7.48, and we had to utilize 2 of those. We had the modern square bar pulls, which you could have went cheaper. These are the door hardware pieces that my wife chose. We have the paint, in which we're going to be utilizing, which costed $21.98 for a quart, as well as the primer, which cost $14.98. I'll also not be including the price of the tools. A hammer can be as simple as $2. We may use that a couple times. The drills, drill bits, table saws, miter saw. You start adding all that up and it can get really expensive. A decent table saw you may be able to get off Facebook Market for anywhere from $500 to $1,000. Miter saws, a couple $100. Drills, a couple $100 each. Drill bits. You start looking at all this, and the price of a cabinet, quote unquote, would be outrageous. But these are going to be those overhead costs. So as I build cabinets and I decide to sell them, when people ask me why am I charging so much per hour, is that per hour amount is what's going to be covering the cost of tools, insurance, electricity, rent, all these other amenities that aren't in the bill of materials but are required to run a business. And I think that's going to be the difference that a lot of people also got to understand is custom cabinets aren't going to be selling other products such as big box stores to be able to make ends meet. My hourly fee for this project is $30 an hour, which in the world of woodworking is the cheapest I've ever heard. And I'm using this number only for the idea that I'm new into woodworking. We have pocket hole screws, which costed $21.97 for an assortment of them. And yes, I understand I did not use the entire pack for this project, but if you're someone new, you wouldn't be able to start the project without these. So I'm adding the price as if you had no pocket hole screws. We have edge banding, which is the iron-on adhesive that hides the layers of plywood, which cost $8.96. We have the wood glue, which holds the dominoes and the face frame together, which costed $8.47. We have sandpaper $1.20 and sandpaper at $2.20, which costed $8.11 for the $1.20 and $7.47 for the $2.20. As I previously mentioned, we'll be painting this project, so we have to buy paint brushes and rollers, which the paint brushes from Harbor Freight costed $6.99, and we bought 2 of those. Rollers from Harbor Freight as well costed $4.99. We got 2 of those. So when you add all those costs together for materials only, you're looking at approximately $200. The big box store sells this identical cabinet for $305. So just in materials, you could have saved $100. I'm adding in labor. We also haven't built the doors for this project. We're gonna have to buy pine from a lumber store, mill it down, paint it as well. All that's going to add more time and more resources. Yes, I'm building this as cheap as possible, but custom cabinets are not going to be as cheap as your big box store cabinets. Later on, once my YouTube acquires more viewers and subscribers, I will do a comparison of a box store cabinet, which is made out of MDF, compared to a cabinet that I build here on the channel. I'd like to jump in real fast to say we're going to be installing the pocket holes here. As you can see in the image in the top right, pocket hole is pretty much where you just pre-drill into the panel using this jig here. This allows you to sink screws through that hole into your panel and kind of keeps them concealed. We're just putting 3 along both sides, left and right. This will attach to the panels that we cut in the very beginning to hold the base onto the cabinet. Here my dad and I are talking about how we're going to set the base in there. Are we going to have it level with the bottom of the panels at the very top of the toe kick, or do we want to bring it up a little bit to set even or set flush with the frame, the face frame that will be attached later? That's important, and the reason we decided to go flush with the face frame is because if not, behind that face frame you're going to have a whole bunch of dust and gunk that builds up, and that's just one more area you have to clean versus if you set it nice and flush, you can take a rag and kind of brush everything out of there and then clean it really well with a rag and then mop up or sweep whatever comes out. This here is one of my very first mistakes that I wish I would have done a little bit better at. You're gonna see me sand the edges. The reason I'm sanding these edges is because I thought I was going to be putting banding, edge banding on this project. That pretty much hides the layers of plywood. What I should have done here is sanded the whole thing. Should have sanded all the sides, the corners, the edges, flat parts. I should have sanded everything, because later on what you're going to see is I have to go back and sand all of this once the project's together. This could have been a perfect time to get everything sanded, prepped prior to assembly and paint. You're also going to see later we're not using our paint sprayers since it's only one cabinet. We're just going to be using a paintbrush and a roller, so we're not going to disassemble this project, but sanding it all prior to assembly would have been a big help. But stupid me couldn't see through the audacity that he has, so we did it the difficult way as always. Please feel free to pause the video and look over the Excel sheet with the breakdown of the amount of time, resources, and the total cost of this cabinet as of part 1. Yes, there are some filming that I've not included yet, such as the part of me painting, part of me stapling, and a few other small items, but those will be in part 2. But I wanted to show the audience, or you as the watcher, what it really costs to build a cabinet. Everyone thinks you can just go out here to Home Depot and just buy some lumber and a few nails and wada boom, you have a cabinet. Well, there's a lot of small pieces that you're forgetting about, such as the tack nails. Well, you also need a nail gun to insert those tack nails. You're going to need edge banding. You're going to need an edge banding cutter. There's so many tools that a lot of us may forget about that adds cost. And then there's an abundance of time and resources that add into this total cost.